On January 7, 2015, radical Islamic militants attacked the offices of the French satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo, motivated by their publishing of cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad, which is forbidden in Islam.
On May 3, 2015, a Draw Muhammad contest held in Garland, Texas, in response to the Charlie Hebdo event, was attacked by radical Islamic militants.
These events have sparked an international debate regarding the limits of free speech.
How do we find the balance between the unobstructed exercise of our civil liberties and deliberate disrespect of other religions or cultures?
I'm Chris Edelson. I'm an assistant professor of government in the School of Public Affairs at American University. I'm a lawyer by background, and I write on constitutional issues, including under the First Amendment. If you really think about it, it's hard for me to believe that there are people who really believe in absolute protection for free speech, or for speech.
I do not believe that free speech should be limited in any way. I don't really make any distinctions between any kind of speech. I think that limiting one kind of speech inherently limits all speech.
The Supreme Court has done a pretty good job of explaining some of those circumstances, probably most famously in the 1919 Schenck decision, when Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes famously said, whatever the First Amendment protects, it cannot protect someone who falsely shouts fire in a crowded theater. The court more recently, in the Brandenburg case, Brandenburg versus Ohio in 1969, laid out the standard that's still usually used in the United States. Speech that is intended to and likely to incite imminent lawless action is not protected.
As if you prohibit things that are offensive or that are going to deliberately incite a reaction, you're going to end up making illegal things that we need. The civil rights movement, women's suffrage, all of those movements started with people saying things to incite a reaction. If we make those kinds of speech illegal, then I don't think any change will ever happen in our country. So I think it's really important that people are able to say things that they want and need to say.
I do support free speech broadly. At the same time, I think it's really important to draw a distinction between supporting the concept of free speech and supporting the practice. Specifically in terms of Charlie Hebdo, I actually don't support the cartoonist's choice to publish their cartoons of Muhammad. I think that when speech ends up supporting a prejudiced opinion, we have to be really careful about kind of backing those people who kind of display that opinion.
I mean, yeah, you have free speech, and like technically you are entitled to say or do or draw or produce content that you see fit, but there is a line, and it's kind of just like that line that's like humanity.
A lot of this is left to individuals. People get nervous about saying things and maybe there'll be some legal consequence. Usually there's not. Most things that you say are not going to have legal consequence, because like I said, the test of the United States is generally, if you're saying something, as long as it's not dangerous and not intended to be dangerous, it's protected speech.
Yes, these people have a right to free speech, they have a right to express their opinions, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we should back them.
I would not go into someone else's country and deliberately do something that I knew was against their culture or against their laws.
A lot of the time, the speech that is most in need of defense is the most despicable speech, because I think that's the speech that's most often attacked.
Oliver Wendell Holmes, in the case, one of the cases I talked about before, the Abrams case, he talked about the idea of counter speech. So if someone says something that's offensive, that's not the end of the story. People can respond to it. He said usually speech, even if it's offensive, shouldn't be prohibited. The best way to respond to offensive speech, he said, is usually with more speech.
Though the debate continues, the general consensus at AU seems to be this. While all speech that does not deliberately seek to cause lawlessness should be protected, certain kinds of speech should be discouraged and spoken against.